Drug Dealers Anonymous.
Three of the biggest drug kingpins in the United States at that time were black and were all from North Carolina. It was Frank Lucas, Leslie Ike Atkinson, and Frank Pee Wee Matthews.
I think Frank was the biggest guy that ever existed in drugs and heroin.
In my opinion, Frank Matthews was a much larger drug dealer than Frank Lucas.
Just picture tomorrow, they got all these men, soldiers behind, but they couldn't even touch Frank and money. Frank had more money than the mob.
Frank Matthews was born on February 13th, 1944 in Durham, North Carolina. His mother died when he was 4 years old, and he was raised by his aunt, Marzella Still, the wife of a lieutenant in the Durham Police Department. He was nicknamed Pee Wee in his youth and attended the East End Elementary School, but dropped out in the 7th grade. At age 14, Matthews led a teenage gang in stealing chickens from local farms. He was arrested in October 1960 and served a year for theft at the Raleigh State Reformatory for Boys.
All of us were thieves per se because all of us made a side hustle here and there. But no, he just got, the rumor was he got arrested for stealing chicken. He may have gotten caught, but he wasn't the only one that stole chickens at the Farmers Exchange, no.
Upon his release, he moved to Philadelphia, where he worked as a numbers writer. He made contacts that would become his future Philadelphia drug connections, including Major Coxon and members of the Black Mafia. Matthews was arrested in 1963 and avoided conviction by agreeing to leave Philadelphia. He moved to the Bedford-Stuyvesant area of Brooklyn, New York, and became a barber, collecting numbers as he did in Philadelphia, as well as a loan shark and an enforcer. In 1965, he grew tired of the numbers game. In order to make more money, he transitioned into the heroin trade. During this period, the main supply of wholesale heroin came from the American Mafia through their famed French connection. Matthews attempted to partner with the Gambino and Bonanno crime families, but both organizations declined. He then approached a criminal acquaintance named Spanish Raymond Marquez, a prolific Harlem numbers operator who put him in contact with Cuban mafia boss Rolando Lucas Gonzalez Nunez.
Frank met another contact, Rolando Gonzalez, who was Cuban. Gonzalez got indicted in New York and he fled to Venezuela, but before he left, he sold Frank his first kilo of drugs, and Frank was off and running. Frank is on his own, and he's getting heroin directly from the French connection. The only black guy, the only non-mafia person, really, in the United States to be dealing directly with the French connection.
The relationship between Matthews and Gonzalez expanded into a lucrative and expansive drug trafficking network, with Gonzalez regularly sending large loads of cocaine and heroin from South America. Matthews expanded on this, and within a year, was one of the major players in the New York drug trade. Realizing the need for diversification, he would continually seek out new sources of supply for narcotics, willing to do business with anyone as long as the product was sufficiently pure. He also developed a cocaine dependence that grew along with his business and power.
In terms of the New York scene, he's definitely the biggest gangster that came out of New York, and he may be the biggest gangster, period.
Frank was supplying the biggest drug dealers in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Boston, New Haven, Connecticut, Miami, New Orleans, all over the country.
By the early 1970s, the Matthews organization was handling multi-million-dollar loads of heroin, with Matthews himself earning an estimated $10 million in 1972. According to the DEA, Matthews controlled the cutting, packaging, and sale of heroin in every major East Coast city. In New York, he operated 2 massive drug mills in Brooklyn, one located at 925 Prospect Place, nicknamed the Ponderosa, and the other at 101 East 56th Street, nicknamed the OK Corral. Both locations were heavily fortified and secured, with walls reinforced with steel and concrete and protected by guards with automatic weapons.
The Ponderosa is where they would process the heroin.
And he would, this is a classic. He would have them at the table with no clothes on, and they were cutting up drugs with the deck of cards. It took us an hour to get through the doors. We finally had to break a wall down. That's when we realized, and the bosses realized, that he was not just a street dealer. He was an international trafficker.
Besides controlling the retail sale of heroin, the Matthews organization supplied other major dealers throughout the East Coast with multi-kilogram shipments for up to $26,000 per kilogram. He was known to supply heroin to Philadelphia through Major Coxon, who then sold it to the Black Mafia. Matthews purchased a house at 7 Buttonwood Road in the Mafia Enclave in Tot Hill, Staten Island, 3 blocks from Gambino family boss Paul Castellano, who lived on Benedict Road.
The mob was mad at him because he had did an end around on them to get his heroin from the French Connection. So he's selling drugs to all the big black dealers. That's cutting into the mafia's profits. And now he moved on the same block with them, and they didn't like it.
Castellano and certainly Three Fingers Brown would have wanted him killed.
In 1971, Matthews invited major African American and Hispanic drug traffickers throughout the country to attend a meeting in Atlanta, Georgia, to discuss means of importing heroin without mafia involvement. The DEA became aware of the meeting and monitored who attended. Those present decided to build stronger independent relationships with the Corsican Mafia and possibly the Cuban Mafia. In addition, they agreed to diversify their product to include cocaine, which was becoming available in massive quantities. The Atlanta meeting was significant because it underscored the changing nature of the drug business. Whereas previously, the American Mafia controlled the importing and wholesaling of narcotics, therefore controlling who could and could not advance past them, now others were establishing their own pipelines. Before, the Mafia asserted behind-the-scenes control of the business, while African Americans sold and used the drugs in their cities. Now the black dealers established connections and took control of their neighborhoods. This later evolved to include not just black people controlling the business, but also local black gangs, eliminating out-of-town black suppliers, trying to control their neighborhoods from a distance.
Had good leadership skills and had convened a meeting of all of the top African American and Hispanic drug dealers in Atlanta, Georgia in 1971. And his goal was to unite and form a family where they cut out the Italian Mafia and went right to the source of heroin and brought it in and controlled the distribution.
Matthews clashed with the Philadelphia Black Mafia, resulted in bloodshed on Easter Sunday in 1972, when Tyrone, Mr. Millionaire, Palmer, his main dealer in Philadelphia, was shot and unalived at an Atlantic City nightclub. Many innocent bystanders were shot during the gunfight, with 5 people unalived and 26 injured. No one was prosecuted for the crime, and none of the 800 potential witnesses came forward. 3 of Matthews' top lieutenants were also taken out by the Black Mafia.
The Black Mafia were Nation of Islam members that operated out of Temple Number 12 in Philadelphia. They were extorting drug dealers, they were selling drugs themselves, and they were involved in a lot of murders.
The Black Mafia, resented the fact that Frank was trying to set up franchises, which what they were. He was trying to franchise his operation.
On Easter Sunday '72, the Philly Black Mafia finds Tyrone Palmer inside the Club Harlem in Atlantic City, which is someplace Frank liked to hang out at, but he didn't happen to be there that night. But Tyrone Palmer was. Philly Black Mafia pulls out their guns, huge shootout, In front of hundreds of witnesses, they killed Tyrone Palmer, his bodyguard, and 3 women that are with them. The witnesses are also terrified. No one ever comes forward, so no one's ever arrested and convicted for the crime.
Later in 1972, Matthews held another summit in Las Vegas at the Sands Hotel during the Muhammad Ali versus Jerry Quarry boxing match. Soon afterwards, police tapped his phone lines, resulting in recordings of him discussing drug transactions. In December 1972, he was indicted by federal prosecutors in Brooklyn for attempting to sell 40 pounds of cocaine in Miami, Florida, between April and September 1972. In January 1973, the DEA arrested Matthews at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, ahead of a planned trip to Los Angeles with his girlfriend on charges of tax evasion and conspiracy to distribute heroin and cocaine.
Next morning, Las Vegas headlines. New York Kingpin, Frank Matthews arrested with $25,000, girlfriend, so forth.
He was arrested in Las Vegas by local DEA agents.
He gets down to Clark County Jail. There's Frank Matthews. Goddamn, homie, they got y'all too? Yeah, I say, man, why you telling you was hot?
And Miller and I flew out immediately to question him. And we interviewed him, but he stonewalled us completely.
A federal judge originally set bail at $5 million, the highest bail amount ever set at the time. Bail was reduced to $2.5 million when he agreed not to fight extradition to New York. After a few weeks in jail, his bail was reduced again to $325,000. He was indicted on 6 counts of tax evasion and conspiracy to distribute heroin and cocaine and faced 50 years in prison. On July 2nd, 1973, he was scheduled to appear in a Brooklyn courthouse, but never showed. He took $20 million and fled the country with his girlfriend. He left behind his wife, their 3 sons, and their Staten Island mansion, and was never seen again.
His plot came in when the lawyer told him, "You not getting out on bail. They gonna keep you. You gonna face a life sentence, a 848."
The comment by Deary may or may not have had an effect. We were prepared to bring the life count in a superseding indictment. We were getting ready to do that. After the Deary incident, he fled that night, and the last person to see him in Brooklyn was Detective Mike Bramble, who spotted him blasting through a red light in his car. Bramble gave chase and he lost him.
The FBI placed a $20,000 reward for Matthews, at that time the highest set by a federal agency. No one has seen Frank Matthews since 1973. No confirmed sightings, no fingerprints, nothing. Did he flee to Africa, the Caribbean? Did the mob get to him? Or is he still alive somewhere, watching the world from the shadows?
If he died of natural causes or in a car accident or something to that effect, his fingerprints would have eventually gone into a coroner's database and it would have been matched up, and then we could have proven either through autopsy or death certificate.
There have been many informants, both LCN, La Cosa Nostra types that supposedly, killed him or had him eliminated because he was a threat to La Cosa Nostra. He was well known as a drug dealer, and he was held in $5 million bail.
All I'm thinking, he alive. John Darby told me, he got a plastic surgery. Boom, he doing good. He over in Africa somewhere.
He's alive. And I say this unequivocally because he's a smart person. And he's got the homeboys protecting him, and Marcella protecting him, and Durham, North Carolina protecting him. I think he's alive.
Frank Matthews' influence on the drug trade is undeniable. His ability to evade capture and build a significant empire has inspired numerous films, documentaries, and books. He has become an archetype of the American gangster, representing both ambition and the consequences of a life of crime. His story is not just about crime, it reflects the economic challenges of his time, the lure of easy money, the pitfalls of the drug trade, and the impact on communities. The war on drugs was intensifying during his day, and figures like him became symbols of that struggle. As we reflect on the life of Frank Matthews, we see a complicated narrative filled with ambition, risk, and the ultimate elusiveness. He remains a cautionary tale, a reminder of the delicate balance between aspiration and morality.